What time
it's
is it?
Luginbill time. Our buddy Tom Luginbill, weekly guest normally during college football season. We're able to lasso him in after a big XFL weekend. Lugs, man. XFL debut.
Beer snake.
Yeah. What'd you say? Deer?
The beer snake.
The
You see
beer
it in the
snake.
stands?
Yeah, that was wild. What's up, Lugs?
Good morning, guys. Yeah, a lot of people don't realize that the beer snake actually got started in 2020 in that same stadium.
Oh.
And man, they had it going, like from the top of the stadium all the way down to the field. And for whatever reason, stadium security put an end to it. And we don't know why. Like, we can't figure out what the problem is. It's not dangerous. They're not hurting anybody. But what a great atmosphere, man. I mean, it was fantastic to see not only the fans back that team, but to see the enthusiasm, the energy. The atmosphere was awesome.
Yeah, and I was able to catch it. Kind of what we've talked about, Lugs, is the XFL, whether it's the XFL or it's the USFL, that I think the theory of trying to replace the NFL is just never going to work. It's like taking Diet Coke and trying to tell everybody that it's Coke and then saying, hey, it's Coke Zero Sugar, and doing all these different things. But instead of making it your own, like things like the beer snake, the rules, being able to score 15 points and, what was it, like 13 seconds or whatever it was, something crazy like that. You have to have enough that's different and enough that's the same to be able to make this work. And I feel like after the first weekend, the XFL really kind of did that. I thought it was. Would you rate it as a success?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, you got to understand, you're talking to somebody that's now been a part of all three iterations. I was the quarterbacks coach at Los Angeles in 2001. Yep. I was on the field as an analyst in 2020, now in the booth in 2023. And I've seen all the evolution of this thing and the rules tweaks and the transparency with the reviews. A lot of people don't remember this, but in 2001, the Skycam was debuted in the XFL. And it was universally panned. It was the dumbest thing ever. Why are we doing this? Why are we using this? Guess what? The next year, it debuted on Monday Night Football, and all of a sudden, it's the greatest thing since pocket T-shirts, right? So it's like all of these different things have come about because of this. And you're right. First of all, there is no intention to try to replace the NFL. There's not even an intention to try to compete with it. What this is a great opportunity because there's a lot of good football players out there. Guys that have made it down to the last cut. Guys, there are guys playing in this league that have 3-4 active years in the NFL, but guess what? They were salary cap casualties. They got too expensive. They got priced out. They took the younger player that's more talented. There are guys that made it on practice squads. Just good football players here, combined with, to your point, things that are making it unique, right? The mics, the audio, but maybe more so than anything else, the transparency on the officiating reviews.
Yes.
And that is something, and don't kid yourself, every commissioner, including Greg Sankey, the National Football League, all of these folks are paying very close attention to this, because I remember in 2020 when this happened, right? And you guys know how officials generally are. They're going to push back. They're not used to having to stand at the podium and be accountable. They're not used to having to answer questions, right? So when this was all proposed, the officials like, whoa, we don't want it. We don't want any part of that. And what they didn't realize until it took place was by doing what was done in 2020 and what we're continuing to do now in 2023, it actually created sympathy for the officials.
Yeah,
the officials
humanizes you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden the fan goes, oh, wait a minute. This isn't as black and white as I thought. Yeah. I didn't realize how much goes into all of this. It's actually created a different perspective for the fan that, number one, they appreciate. The officials now are looked at differently because of how difficult the job is. And then you as the fan watching it, all right, you get to really get a sense of what's going on. And it's great. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but the stuff we're doing with Dean Blandino is awesome.
No, I agree. And this is something I've advocated for, that expedited reviews, making the fan a part of the process. And look, there's I've got a couple of other important questions to ask you. I know they do too, but nothing will be more important than this. Rumors are just swirling all over the internet that now that you're part of the XFL, that you and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson are like swimming in the same circles and you're like hanging out with him and Kevin Hart and stuff. Can we hang out?
Sure.
Nice.
Sure. I actually reminded the Rock. Actually, he'd prefer to be called either DJ or Dwayne Johnson.
Oh, excuse
from
us.
what we've been told.
I'll call him the Rock.
Well, it's interesting because our home opener at Los Angeles in 2001, he basically came out and did his whole spiel, right? With the people's eyebrow, and can you smell what the Rock is cooking, the whole 9 yards. And I saw him on Sunday night. I reminded him of that. I was like, hey, do you remember in 2001 you come to Los Angeles? Obviously, he didn't remember meeting me, but it's just interesting in 22 years over the course of time. And let me tell you something. He and his ex-wife, Danny Garcia, the chairwoman of the league, they're invested, man. I mean, they want this thing to work and go forward. And I got to be honest with you guys, if the pandemic hadn't happened in 2020, this thing would be rolling along because it was really working then, and I think it's going to work now.
Yeah, aim for the bushes.
Aim for the bush.
Can't wait to see Tom and Jumanji.
You guys know how I feel about that movie.
Tom and Jumanji.
Sorry, Rock. Tom Luginbill.
Yeah, it's like,
And
wait,
Beer Snake.
where's Tom?
And Beer Snake.
Where's Beer Snake? Yeah, Tom's over there like showing a gorilla how to throw a spiral.
Yeah. I'd watch it.
Yeah, he's like evaluating him. He's like, look, Pongo's got a chance. All right, go ahead. Sorry, I digress.
I love hearing you talk about the sky cam too. I've often said as a quarterback growing up, if I could have watched every game from behind the quarterback's head on the sky cam, I would have been exponentially better. The only problem is, Brady and Peyton Manning and those guys, they would have been better too. So I would have still been in the same bucket.
I'm just shocked the government didn't blow that sky cam out of the sky once they realized it clipped on the radar.
It's not held up there with a balloon. It's got cable.
That's right.
Yeah. That's right. That's actually, the sky cam's actually eye level with David.
Hey, don't be a heightist. Don't be a heightist, all right? We're covering serious topics here, Tanner.
Yes, get serious, guys.
Talking about quarterbacks, Tom, CBS Sports moved Anthony Richardson up to their projected number 1 overall pick. Don't you put your head in your hands. Don't you put your head in your hands.
Drink it in.
You watched as much college football as anybody. It seems like over the past few years, these NFL GMs, their biggest fear is passing on high-level ceiling talent here when you see what Patrick Mahomes has been able to do, getting more and more like the NBA. Is this ludicrous, which I can tell by his reaction there, is this ludicrous, or, does Anthony Richardson have number 1 overall potential?
Tom, the floor is yours.
Guys, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing? And listen, I get the skill set. Right? But the problem is he's not productive.
Yeah.
Like, what are we talking about here? This guy throws the ball to the other team, okay? He's been injured, so he's got a history of injury. He is wildly erratic. He is inaccurate on a consistent basis, by the way, I think he completed 53% of his passes or something like that. I mean, some ridiculously poor number. By the way, in today's game, where the completion percentage is higher than it's ever been, because what are we doing? We're throwing bubble screens, we're RPOing, we're dinking and dunking. By the way, the jet sweep now counts as a forward pass, right?
Yes.
So, what? I don't understand. And listen, I'm not the smartest guy in the room. I've spent 11 years in professional football. I've been in scouting rooms. I've been in draft rooms, and I've coached the position. But I'm all in favor of really talented guys that are maybe late bloomers that you say, hey, we could invest in this guy, blah, 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 blah.
Jalen Hurts.
But the number 1 overall pick, and you have basically based this on nothing other than a physical skill set, because you can't base it on anything
I have a theory.
Relatively close to performance.
I have a theory, Tom. I tweeted out this the minute Steichen took the Colts job, because if you look, that projection, I believe, had the Colts trading with the Bears to get that number 1 pick to then go get Anthony Richardson. Shane Steichen just made it to the Super Bowl and got his bag with Jalen Hurts, who is a true dual threat quarterback. Do you think
how productive Jalen Hurts was?
No, Tom, I'm not arguing who was more. I'm wondering if it is him in his mind is saying, okay, well, my offense works best when I have this type of player. Do you think he is falling for his own trap are being a victim of his own success after somewhat of a small sample size with Jalen Hurts saying Anthony Richardson has a big arm, so there's a potential for him to make all the throws. He's an elite runner of the ball. He's an unbelievable athlete, and he's big enough to take those hits. Do you think maybe Steichen is kind of looking at Jalen Hurts and kind of seeing Anthony Richardson of how he can mold him, which I don't think is the right decision. I think they'd be nuts to pass over Bryce Young and a couple other guys, but I would rather reach for Anthony Richardson than Will Levis, but for damn sure not at 1.
Yeah, and you're right. Yeah, and that's NFL ego, though. I mean, that's, I can get him, and I can mold him, and I can coach him, and I can change him in this and that.
Do you know how many massage him?
Exactly. I mean, do you know how many boxes Bryce Young checks that you can't coach? Just about all of them. Maybe every one of them, right? The only thing that God did not bless him with is stature, okay? All of the other things, and I'll tell you right now, I had Bill O'Brien tell me to my face in our production meeting for the Sugar Bowl that Bryce Young was and is maybe the smartest player that he's been around, college or pro. Okay, now, what now? And on top of it, he said, when I show up on a Tuesday and we have our game plan meeting and we sit with the quarterbacks, he goes, I better have my ducks in a row, because by the time that Tuesday is rolled around, from Saturday night to Tuesday, Bryce Young's already watched all of the other teams. He's already broken down the tape, and I'm going to get challenged in that meeting. Okay. To me, like, those are the types of things that
makes you so much better.
Person.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm just like, and let's not even go down the Will Levis tunnel. We're not doing that either. Okay.
Yeah, we could go down that one.
Okay. Well, then we're going to go down the Jake Locker tunnel, because that's exactly what he is.
Or the Mitch Trubisky.
I like that comp.
Yeah.
I like that comp.
Well, he's Jake Locker.
Yeah. I do.
I mean, the arm talent is obviously there, Tom. He can just wow people at a combine, without shoulder pads on. Unfortunately, that's not what wins football games.
No, you have to have some sort of touch. It's you don't shoot somebody from close range with a grenade launcher. Like, a grenade launcher is great if you're shooting it away from you to blow up. It's like playing quarterback. You can throw it 1,000 miles per hour. Great. Can you throw the swing pass? Can you throw the slant without throwing it 1,000,000 miles an hour? You can't just always have the grenade launcher or the bazooka. Sometimes, you got to.
There's a reason.
You got the P90.
Not to mention, even if you have the grenade launcher, even if you've got the howitzer, it doesn't do you any good when you're throwing it to the other team.
Yeah. It's true. I mean, look, it's true. You talk about production.
That's why guys usually throw the hardest or closers, and they throw for 1 inning.
Yeah.
Right? It works for 1 inning.
Yeah.
It works for 1 inning.
I'm going to come in for 1 inning and throw it as hard as I humanly can.
Not 7.
Yeah.
All right. Not 7. You got any more questions, Dave?
No, go ahead.
I'll go to the Booster Club here, Tom. Let's go to Brendan Hay. Yeah. And he wants to know, Tom, do you see any players or coaches jumping from the XFL to the NFL next season?
Oh, man. After week 1, that is such a difficult question to answer. I think we will. I think we'll see guys unfold. We'll see guys start to develop, just like we saw with P.J. Walker and a handful of others in 2020 that made active rosters. I just don't know if they've revealed themselves quite yet. Some of these guys, like
did I see Martavis Bryant out there?
Martavis Bryant out. I'm going to have him this week. I've got DC at Vegas. He plays for Vegas.
Who's going to pick up Josh Gordon? Yeah.
Josh Gordon's problem has never been talent.
Yeah.
I mean, it's always the other stuff. And then there's going to be some guys that are talented enough, but have aged themselves out, which is fine. That's just kind of the natural progression. But I think I'll be able to answer that. If we talk 5 weeks from now, I'll be able to answer that question much more clearly. But I do think some players will emerge.
Well, let's go to Travis Elrod. He wants to know, is the NFL Combine important, overrated, or useless?
It's not useless. It's somewhat important, but it is highly overrated, in my opinion. Because I think what ends up happening is, and you know what? I'm going to say this, and I'm going to actually have to eat my own words. All right. One of the most marginally productive players in college that had an unbelievable combine is now a highly productive player in the NFL, and that is DK Metcalf. So DK was essentially the third option on Ole Miss's team. All right. He was injured all the time. He wasn't overly productive. He goes and he lights the world on fire at the NFL Combine. And so all of a sudden, everybody just forgets all of the stuff that they weren't able to identify on tape, and they become enamored because of the physical attributes. More often than not, that will backfire on you. Okay. It didn't with DK Metcalf, and good for him and good for his career. But the problem in football is it's unlike any other sport in that it can't be duplicated outside of its natural setting.
Yep.
Like I can play AAU basketball in the summer and play with my high school team in the winter, and I'm still playing the sport of basketball, right? Tennis, baseball, all of it, softball. But football can't be duplicated in shirts and shorts. You can test, you can identify, you can measure, and you can gain all of this verifiable data, which is a fantastic part of the puzzle, but it's one piece to the puzzle. Yeah. And I've never been of the belief that setting should trump how productive you've been as a player on the field.
Yeah.
Ever. And so I think it's a tool, and it's no different than high school recruiting for me. I go to these Under Armour camps, I go to the Elite 11, I watch this, and this, and it may all be great, okay? And it's a great tool, and it's a great resource. But then when you turn on the film and you start saying, okay, I'm going to take every third down in the fourth quarter of this quarterback and see how he performed. I'm going to take every game versus a rival opponent of this running back, and I'm going to take every game of the best teams on his schedule of this running back, and I'm going to break those down and see how he plays. That stuff's going to trump, in my opinion, the underwear Olympics every single time.
Yeah. Well, when I used to say all the time, when you talk about combines, you talk about camps, it's part of the equation. It's not the answer. That is where I think people get kind of mixed up. But Tom, we never get mixed up when you get on here, man. It's always great stuff. Tell everybody where you're going to be next. I mean, XFL, college football, you cover everything, man. Tell everybody where they can find you next.
Yeah, man. I'll be DC at Vegas on Saturday afternoon. We've got a Thursday, a Saturday, and 2 games on Sunday. So we're the only game, prime time, 7 p.m. Eastern time, this coming Saturday for the XFL. And then when I can, I'm trying to get out on the road and see some of these high school youngsters running around and gather more information on them. But I'll tell you guys, it's a good catching up. It always is, man.
It always is,
having me on.
Tom, you know we love you, brother. Appreciate it. We'll get you on here again soon. Everybody check him out in the XFL, man. Appreciate you. YouTube, come here. Come take a seat in the trust tree. Let's have a talk. All right, here's what I need you to do. I appreciate you. You put us on, you show us. And fans of the show, subscribe, like, turn on the notification bell so you can find all our content, because that's how we make money being funny.